Jeff Marek is the host of The Sheet daily on the Nation Network.
Gentlemen, welcome back.
He joins us on Fridays.
Thank you.
Jeff, how are you?
I am well. Exciting time. Big upsets at the World Championships. Drama between Carolina and Florida. Injuries. And we'll see if the Oilers can bounce back tonight against the juggernaut third period Dallas Stars.
Sorry,
job availabilities, rumors, all kinds.
Did you say drama between the Hurricanes and the Panthers? I see no drama. I see a wagon.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, there's a wagon, but I'll tell you, if you have a look at how Florida behaved, one after Gostis Bear did his best impression of Daniel Alfredson on Scott Niedermayer, 2006 in Game 1, and then if you saw how they reacted after Aho just leveled Sam Reinhart on Thursday night, which I don't consider a bad hit. I know the hue and cry, but it's too low. It's like, that's not a low hit. That's not a low hit at all. It's a hit that can injure for sure, and it doesn't look good for Sam Reinhart as they play amateur doctor here thousands of miles away. But everywhere, the thing I love about the Florida Panthers is everywhere they go, it's drama. They are just one of those teams that it doesn't matter who they're playing or what the scenario is. There is going to be drama because that's just the nature of how this roster has been constructed.
Honestly, I'd be more entertained if they just lined up at the blue line and bare-knuckled fought at this point. Because the hockey is oof. And did you say exciting times, Marek? I thought you were Canadian.
In what sense? Well, it's I think the World Championships.
We just
that's
lost
exciting.
Denmark. Come on.
I know. And listen,
I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I'm considering my citizenship options. Like 51st state has never sounded better to me. Actually,
what number were you wearing? You weren't out there. This is McKinnon and Crosby and Binnington, and this has got to be the tap in and the audition for the Olympics. Listen, Canada at the World Juniors lost to Latvia. I was there ringside watching the whole thing, stunned like everybody else.
Yeah.
So what's your take on how that happened? Is it just Canada? You just can't rise up against Denmark because it's only Denmark and you get caught with your pants down a little bit?
There's always been that internationally, hasn't there, Blake? I mean, you know it better than I do. I mean, you covered a lot more and you're there for some of these. Like, you know what it's like. Sometimes Canada, and I can't speak to all these players. I don't know what's between McKinnon and Crosby and everyone's ears on this one, or Jordan Binnington for that matter. But it has happened before. It's Denmark. Sure, Nick Ehlers has come racing back from Winnipeg, but still, it's Denmark. I got to hand it to them though. Like it's a great shot. If Canada's going to go out against somebody, I want it to mean something for another country at the World Championships, which kind of the World Championships. And Canada is a country that looks at the World Championships and still says our best players aren't there. They're still playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a harm-free loss, but it's great for Denmark. Like, it is fantastic for that program to say we knocked off Canada. In the
round robin, in the group play, that's one thing. A quarterfinal game where it's win or go home, I'm still disappointed.
No. With this wasn't a typical Canadian World Championship team. Like, fellas, if this is the ragtag group,
Mangiapane.
Exactly. There were 7 Stanley Cup champions and 11 Stanley Cup rings out there on the ice. There were 13 first-round draft picks out there on the ice. There were 4 Nations players.
Number 1 draft picks out there.
On the ice. We have 550,000 registered hockey players. That's nearly 100 times what Denmark has. And honestly, the only thing preventing this from being higher than the bronze medal for most embarrassing Canadian international losses for me is the fact it is a World Championships and not a best on best. The only 2 I have to put ahead are the loss to Kazakhstan 6-3 at the 98 World Juniors to finish 8th. Do you remember 8th?
That was a bad one.
And then poor Mike Liut at the 81 Canada Cup final where the Soviets ventilated him 8-1.
So I remember talking to Mike a few years ago on the old 32 pod, and it still haunts him to this day. Like, hearing him talk about it, because he went on to have a wonderful career in the NHL. To me, still one of the best goaltenders all throughout the 80s. At a wonderful
successful agency.
A very successful agency. And probably somewhere along the way, I always wondered whether he was going to become the executive director of the NHL Players Association. Like he was that well thought of within the Players Association. But that one still haunts him. Like that one he's going to carry with him for a long time. I think you're missing the big one, though. I think you're missing the ultimate big one. The one that changed the game forever. 1972 Game 1 at the Montreal Forum. Now, for me, that was the birth of international hockey. That was
that team turned out to be pretty good, right? Like we didn't know anything about them, but they turned out to be
it turned out okay, but again, like this is, and I count myself as one of them. I'm an arrogant Canadian hockey fan too. I get it. We focus on Game 8. You know what they focus on in Russia? Game 1.
Yeah.
Game 1 was the most important because that was the one where it was like, whoa. I mean, everybody, every single newspaper, Canada's winning. Canada will not lose a period, let alone is Canada gonna lose a game. That was the ultimate shocker. I mean, anyone who's ever written about it, spoken about it, everybody on that team, Espo and Henderson scored. It's 2-0. Here we go. This is going to be a laugher. And then Harlamov scored. And then all of a sudden, everything changes and the Soviets start to pour it on. And everything in hockey changed after Game 1 to the point where they begged Bobby Orr to join the team on one leg.
Same rule then as this year, though. Canada is the best team. The only thing that's going to bring down Canada is Canada and the approach that the Canadian team might have. We know that they work hard. We know they're the most skilled. But if they aren't in the right headspace on a given day, they can be had.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting about it, too? One quick point. Crosby's Pittsburgh Penguins. Even when they were winning Stanley Cups, to me, they were a fascinating team because as highly skilled as they were, if they took their foot off the gas even slightly, like the whole thing would fall apart. It was like bicycle theory. Keep cycling and you're fine. Slow down and you'll fall off. Mm-hmm. Like that was the Pittsburgh Penguins. As great as they were, and players are going to the Hall of Fame. Coaches are going to the Hall of Fame. Like reputation is intact for a lot of these people. They were that team that was so skilled. But if they just eased off the gas a little bit, the whole thing crumbled. And we saw it time and time. It was one of the more fascinating teams I've ever seen in the NHL. Maybe that was part of the other. I don't know.
The other one, and it was prelims, and so it was a knockout. It doesn't get as much run, but we lost 2-0 to Switzerland at the Torino Olympics.
Yeah,
and if you look at that team, Rob Blake, Jerome McGinley, Marty St. Louis, Marty Brodeur, Marty Turco, Brad Richards, Vincent LeCavalier, Pronger, Sakic, Nash, Thornton, and we lost to Paul DiPietro and Martin Gerber that night in Torino. And if it was a knockout one, that one would have absolutely set off the Royal Commission.
Although, small aside, what that did for Switzerland. Switzerland is a legit hockey nation now, capable of winning a medal at any level. I'm not winning at all. I don't think in a best on best they're going to win gold. But would you, in a best on best tournament, if you told me that Switzerland won bronze in that tournament, I would not be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. The two countries that we've seen emerge in the last however many years are Switzerland and Germany. Brian Burke, when he ran the Maple Leafs, had an affiliation with a couple of German teams as well, and he would always make the point that this is going to be a rising nation. They have a strong athletic cultural base to everybody in Germany as well. They're well financed, and once they really catch on with hockey, and they do something about their import rules, they are going to be a powerhouse. Berkey was on that one years and years before the rise of the Dreisaitl's of the world, for sure.
Yeah. Let's move on to the NHL and the Vancouver Canucks and some potential assistance. Now, everyone seems to think Luke Richardson is going to wind up in Philadelphia with Tocchet. Is that your understanding, or do you think
I've heard same. I've heard same. Okay.
Mm-hmm. What do you know about Bob Boughner?
I like Bob Boughner a lot. I think, I got to know him I shouldn't say very well. I got to know him pretty well with the Windsor Spitfires and their run in 2017 to the Memorial Cup. Him and Warren Reichel running shotgun with each other on that powerhouse team coached by Rocky Thompson to the Memorial Cup final and then an ultimate victory. I mean, we all know what he was like on the ice. I think that he's been in a couple of tough situations and things that haven't always gone well for him. He's never really been on a team that had enough talent that he could distinguish himself as a coach in the NHL, but he's someone that players really like. And it's not just, at the junior level where you love, all your coaches, but he's someone that players have always, in my experience, really enjoyed playing for and being around. So, and listen, as he played, he was as tough as they came. Like Bob Boughner was, take no prisoners kind of guy. But I've always liked him, and players seem to feel the same way. But I'm like, very few people come away from either a conversation or a relationship with Bob Boughner and don't feel good about themselves. He's that guy. He's that guy.
Did you see Bruce Hamilton basically fell on the sword, took all the blame for Adam Foote's coaching tenure in Kelowna this week?
No surprise. Good on Bruce. Like good on Bruce Hamilton for doing that. He's listen, that's one of the most, as you guys know, one of the most powerful owners, not just in the Western Hockey League, but in the entire CHL. And I think we're all very curious to see what happens at next year's edition of the Memorial Cup and what type of team Bruce Hamilton can put together. Longtime hockey guy, as a player, as an owner here as well. He did the right thing. He absolutely did the right.
How much truth is it? Do you believe?
I don't know the behind the scenes on it.
I don't know either.
I'm not as close to the Western Hockey League dynamics as I am with like the Ontario League or in certain parts of the Quebec League as well. But I would be fraudulent if I said I knew exactly what went on there in Kelowna with Adam Foote.
I thought he explained it pretty well. He did. He was pretty thorough, comprehensive.
We brought in the wrong guys
in terms of explaining everything that went wrong, and Teach Ginla on that Kelowna team for next year potentially. We'll see.
Yep.
What else was I going to ask you?
You know what? By the way, speaking of assistant coaches, when we're watching Florida, like there's a number of people that I'm really curious about here. Florida Panthers may win the Stanley Cup again. They're just motoring through Carolina right now. They motored through Tampa, and they had their scare against the Maple Leafs, but then when they put their foot down, there was nothing the Maple Leafs could do against them. It's only going to be a matter of time before other teams say, it's time we start stealing people from Florida. And I'm not necessarily just talking about players that will escape as free agents. I really wonder about Sylvain Lefebvre. I was having a conversation with Pierre Maguire about him earlier this week on the sheet. And when you look at whether it's Brandon Montour or now Nico Mikkola, or how well Seth Jones has been able to adapt into this high-end blue line where all of a sudden, like Seth Jones, every night he's the best player on the ice, guys. Right? And I know part of it is he rejuvenated, not playing with a Hawks team that's out of the playoffs by mid-December. But, Sylvain Lefebvre's fingerprints are all over this blue line, which is the envy of the NHL. And you just wonder, like, at some point, someone is going to come for him. Someone's going to come for Paul Krapelka, the assistant manager with Bill Zito in Florida. There's already speculation about Rick Dudley, working in Buffalo alongside Kevin Adams as an advisor or a consultant. Like, at some point, the Florida Panthers, if they can do this again, even if they don't, people are going to say, this is really successful. We need to get someone from there in here to replicate or try to replicate the model that Florida's using. How do we do that? Let's get some of their personality.
Well, we've already seen that with
Lefebvre's fascinating.
I think you're right.
We've already seen that with the other Florida team, as Tampa Bay has been pilfered over the years, and it's happened again today with Matthew Darche named the GM of the Islanders. What do you know of Darche, and what do you think his plans are going to be? Because he's going to get along. He's going to get a long runway there, you'd think. Is there going to be pressure for him to win next year, or is he going to be able to sell off pieces like Horvat and Barzal and sort of put his own fingerprints on this?
Well, one of the interesting things about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and again, you can't completely, duplicate the model. I mean, go get Kucherov, go get Hedman. Like it's not that not that simple. But the interesting thing to me about the Tampa Bay Lightning has always been, it's not like they're doing this with a bunch of first round picks. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning have been really, really creative. Sure, Vasilevsky's a first-round pick, and Hedman's second overall, and Steven Stamkos was first overall. But if you have a look up and down that lineup, it's not like a murderer's row of first-rounders here, right? And especially with that forward group, Anthony Cirelli is not a first-round pick. Braden Point is not a first-round pick. They've done a really good job using waivers. They've done a really, really smart job with trading. They're not like, one of the things that I've admired about Tampa is they're not too arrogant to admit when they made a mistake. And case in point is the return of Ryan McDonagh. Like, I'll still make the point that one of the reasons why Tampa has started to take a step back was letting go of Ryan McDonagh and sending him off to Nashville. That's when things really came apart. That was a real glue guy in the room, but on the ice, not only is he a shot block machine, but also Ryan McDonagh, as someone told me, nobody gets back to position quicker than Ryan McDonagh. He's always in position because when he's out of position, he gets back fast. He's that guy, and they brought him back. Right. Once they realized that, you know what, Sergachev's not ready for that bump up in spot here on Tampa, maybe on another team, but not here. They brought Ryan McDonagh back.
Yanni Gourde 1.0, Yanni Gourde 2.0.
Yanni Gourde's another one. Yeah. Like they're not it's a really smart, well-run organization. So not that you can completely, completely take a snapshot and say, here, this is the model. We're going to do this exactly, because there's different dynamics and different ownership and different personalities involved here. I think that you're looking at someone that has ridden shotgun next to a couple of managers, most specifically Julien Brisebois, and been able to study the model and understand the logic behind it. Like, that's why I made the point about Florida. He understands the blueprint. Not that you can replicate it, but he understands it.
And Jeff, here's the thing about Darsh. Like, he could be a watershed GM for the NHL, because while you can sit there and say, yeah, he was an ex-NHL player, he got to the NHL out of U Sport. There's not many of those. He's got a degree in commerce with a minor in international business from McGill. So, and he worked for a big freighting company before even getting in to the National Hockey League. So this is a really smart cookie here who is elevated.
Based on what you just said, though, he might just think that I can go find those jewels in the rough and turn this team around on my own without having to tear it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I'll be curious to see who, and we'll see what happens with Brendan Shanahan in this situation. Who Darsh brings in along with him, and you're gonna have to start to go back and piece together his background and try to figure out, okay, who he played with or managed with, whether relationships with, like he played, once upon a time in the American Hockey League with Riley Armstrong, who's now the director of player development for the Philadelphia Flyers. Does that make some sense with Matthew Darsh? I don't know. He's always been considered an up-and-comer, either young manager or coach. So I don't know. Like that to me is going to be the curiosity. Is there going to be, a new group of scouts that come in, or a couple? I don't know. But now the curiosity begins again. Okay, who comes along with Darsh, who, by the way, has been up for a number of these jobs before. Like, we wondered about Montreal, we wondered about Ottawa. Like this isn't the first go around for Matthew Darsh.
The new Vancouver franchise in the PWHL has a new general manager. What can you tell us about Kara Morey?
Coaching at Princeton, so she'd be familiar with, Sarah Fillier and Claire Thompson would be a couple of the obvious ones here. One of the interesting things in talking to a couple of people this morning, one of the curiosities, since she's been a coach for so long, and she was, she played as well, but since she's been a coach for so long, and sometimes coaches have a hard time letting go of the coaching part of their life when they take on a management role. One of the curiosities is, can she resist the temptation to behave as a coach while she's a manager? Natalie Darwitz in Minnesota kind of found herself in a tricky situation and kind of polarized the team, going back to like Utica camps when she was like on the ice, directing traffic with a lot of the athletes, which rubbed more than a few the wrong way. And I think that from what I'm told, she's smart enough to understand that distinction, but it's her first go around here as a manager of a team. Can she resist the temptation to allow the coach in herself to come out because she's been at it for so long?
All right. My Jeff Marek Easter egg.
Okay.
Is it about Radiohead? Because me and Blake like Radiohead. I don't know if you knew that.
It's not about Radiohead. It would never be about Radiohead.
Okay. All right, fine.
This week we commemorated the death of comedic actor George Wendt, of course known as Norm from Cheers, but also Bill Swirsky's super fans on.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
Yes.
And I was like,
sadly,
Norm like caught me in bed with his wife.
Yeah. Vera. Remember we almost saw Vera that one
almost
time?
I get the pie in the face. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Ironically, George Wendt dies 32 years to the day of the Cheers finale. And I'm guessing everybody in the room watched the Cheers finale. And I say that because it is the number 2 rated television program series finale.
Non-sporting, yeah.
Of all time. Yes, non-sporting, of course. Of all time. Who are the rest of the top 5?
This number one's easy. It's a tap in.
Number one's MASH. I remember watching that episode with my late mother, who sat there sobbing because that was her favorite show of all time. And that closing scene with the hell. Oh, it's just even.
MASH did a Super Bowl audience. 105 million people watched the MASH finale. Like, that'd be a good number for the Super Bowl. Well, not a good number, but that'd be a reasonable Super Bowl number. Cheers is number 2. Give me the rest of the top 5.
Number 2. I'm going to throw a dart. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Nope.
Wow. Am I allowed to guess?
Yes, of course.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld is number 4. Seinfeld's finale drew 76 million people.
Are these all comedies or no?
One of them is a drama.
Dallas.
I would have thought Dallas too, but no. Who Shot JR was bigger than the actual Dallas finale.
Yeah. Oh, these are only finales. Okay.
These are only finales. MASH, Cheers, Seinfeld. You've got 2 more. One's a drama, one's a comedy.
One's a comedy. Boy,
Dynasty?
I'm so awful at this.
Not Dynasty.
Biggest.
Because the thing is,
Friends.
Very
Friends
good.
has to be up there. Yes.
Friends is number 5. And I think.
Hang on. Can I throw it? Is it Hill Street Blues?
No.
It's a good guess, though.
Very good guess. Very good guess. It's probably before all of our time.
Okay.
The Fugitive.
Oh, really? The
series. Wow.
Like, we think of it as a movie with Harrison Ford, but it was a massive, massive television series before it was.
Wouldn't get that.
Yeah. Here's the other crazy part. Friends did 52 million. Cheers did 80 million. Cheers did 30 million. I realize different television environments, but like it's not like cable cutting was a big thing.
No, not cable cutting.
In 2004 when Friends went off the.
No, but it was a 20-channel universe versus a 1,000-channel universe.
Fair.
Okay, so here's the question: who did you like better, Coach Ernie Pantuso or Woody Harrelson?
I was slow to like Woody, but by the end, I liked Woody.
I'm with Blake on this one.
I was slow to like him, though, from the start.
Did you prefer
Ernie Pan? Coach.
Rebecca or Diane?
Diane all day.
Yeah.
Diane all day for me.
Yeah.
But that's the original, right? That's the original.
Yeah.
The thing about Ernie Pantuso, you remember his main claim to fame? He could get hit by any pitch. Go ahead. Throw the ball at me.
That's right.
Clonk. And all you hear
found
from
a way to lean into
on
them.
my way to first. Could get hit by any pitch.
Beauty.
And he was there for May Day the day he gave up those home runs to Boog Powell.
Ed, if you'll recall, he was asked what his nickname was when he played baseball. And he said his nickname was Red. And someone said, is it because you had red hair? And he said, no, it's because I read a book. His nickname became Red.
Oh, that's so good.
Incidentally, Friends remains massive in syndication and dub titles. Like, there are teenage girls in Ulaanbaatar and Khartoum watching Friends as we speak.
All my kids can narrate it.
Rachel Green, love her hair.
Those are you just named 2 though of my least favorite shows ever. I can't stand Friends and I can't stand Seinfeld.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Can't stand.
Boy, you must have had a tough time in the 90s, Marek.
No, you know what I was a big.
Talk
You know what I was,
Seinfeld or Friends around the water cooler.
No, I know. You know what I was a big fan of, and still am to this day. Larry Sanders Show. To me, is the greatest TV show ever made.
So good.
Larry Sanders.
Have you seen the
Show
Shandling documentary?
No, I haven't, but I've heard it's fantastic.
Go watch it. Go watch it because it is the full story there, good, bad, and indifferent about Gary Shandling and his rise. Marvelous stuff. We got to run. Thank you.
Thanks, boys. Be good.